While everyone was staring up at the creepy light in the sky, something crazy began to happen to people all over the world. Some folks watched in horror as their skin and flesh morphed into grass and wood, turning them into freaky tree zombies straight out of a nightmare. Others had it even worse. Their bones started oozing metal until they looked like victims of a construction site disaster. These poor souls, along with tons of other humans who got transformed by who knows what, began wandering around like mindless drones. It was complete chaos everywhere you looked. You couldn't help but wonder, was there any safe place left in this messed up world? Even our main character was shocked by how chill he had been up until now. It's almost like he wasn't scared of those spooky monsters people were calling Darksiders. But here's the twist: turns out, he had transformed too, just not in the same way as everyone else. Believe it or not, our guy had been turned into a boring old patch of dirt in some random forest. Yeah, you heard that right. A literal piece of land. He couldn't wrap his head around how ridiculous his life had become. I mean, how the heck was he supposed to go anywhere if he was just a big lump of soil? The worst part? While all the other transformed humans still kind of looked like people, he was the odd one out. A total freak among freaks. Out of frustration, he kicked one of his foot-shaped bits of land. Suddenly, the ground beneath a nearby tree zombie shot upwards, making the poor sap trip and faceplant right onto the sharp metal rods sticking out of his buddy's back. Ouch. Black goo started spurting from the walking salad's forehead, the kind of wound that would have meant curtains for a normal human. Tree guy looked super ticked off and started mumbling angrily at Metal Dude, like it was all his fault. Meanwhile, our dirt-covered hero was all, "not my problem." He just shrugged and blamed the Darksiders' crummy attitudes for the whole fiasco. Funnily enough, it seemed like nobody could even tell he existed in this new form. As time passed, he started to feel his mind slipping away bit by bit, like he was slowly becoming nothing more than a boring stretch of land. Honestly, was this transformation really all that different from a death sentence? Talk about a raw deal. Figuring he might as well accept his crummy fate, our boy decided to plop down and wait for the end to come. Just another patch of dirt in this apocalyptic wasteland, right? But then, not too far from his little pity party, he spotted a lady running for her life. She was a cute little thing, a student with green hair that made her stick out like a sore thumb. The poor girl looked super frazzled, probably because she'd been booking it away from monsters for who knows how long. You could practically see the wheels turning in her head. Were there any normal humans even left out there? As luck or maybe fate would have it, her mad dash brought her right to the spot where our ground-bound grump was contemplating the big dirt nap. But then, he caught a glimpse up her skirt and suddenly, life didn't seem so pointless anymore. Sure, his brain might be turning to mulch, but hey, booty is a powerful motivator. Am I right? Faster than you could say, pervy perv, he perked right up, ready to keep on keeping on. Too bad his excitement got the better of him, and he accidentally sent the girl sprawling face first with another bumpy trap. Smooth move, X-lax. She hit the ground hard, and all he could do was sit there like a useless blob. On the bright side, feeling her body pressed against his earthy surface was like a jolt of pure life essence. One of the top 3 sensations known to mankind, if you catch my drift. Even in this bizarro form, there were still some very human urges kicking around in his heart. It was all the proof he needed that deep down, he was still a red-blooded man. While he was busy having his epiphany, little Miss Greenhorn was struggling to pick herself up. Getting your bell rung out of nowhere is never fun, but things were about to get a whole lot worse. Looks like the gruesome twosome from earlier finally quit their slap fight and decided to chow down on some grade a human instead. By the time the girl noticed how close they were, it was already too late to run. The only thing she could do was scream her head off and pray that anybody, would come to her rescue. That was all the motivation our hero needed to snap out of La La Land and step up to the plate. Focusing his newfound powers, he pointed his fingers down like an angry deity. Right on cue, the ground beneath the Darksiders' feet collapsed, swallowing them whole before they could lay a grimy finger on the damsel in distress. He didn't appreciate those knuckleheads causing a ruckus in his body without so much as a pretty please. Time for a little tough love, Darksider style. With a clench of his mighty fist, the earth closed up around them like a Venus flytrap. giving the murder hobos a crash course in being buried alive. But hang on a sec, looks like these jokers weren't your average transformed goons. Even a dirt nap wasn't enough to keep them down for long. With a burst of strength that would make Schwarzenegger proud, they clawed their way back to the surface, shattering Mr. Landman's rocky digits in the process. So much for having the upper hand, get it? Even though he couldn't feel pain exactly, those goons packed a wallop he couldn't just shrug off. A tree trunk here, some gnarly rebar there, these dudes were like something straight out of a construction worker's fever dream. If he wanted to take him out for good, he'd have to get creative and fight smarter, not harder. Priority numero uno was getting the girl out of harm's way. Thinking fast, our crafty hero morphed the land into a handy-dandy elevator, bringing her down to a nice, monster-free hidey hole. Once she was tucked away safe and sound, he sealed the entrance up tighter than a drum. Ain't no Darksider punks gonna touch his new friend, no sir. The whole thing left little Miss Greenhorn's head spinning. Since when did quicksand have a mind of its own? It was crazy to think that a lousy patch of forest could be her knight in shining armor. But hey, end of the world, party of two. As for Sir Diggs a lot, this whole fiasco really drove home what he was working with in his new body. Dirt don't talk, and it sure don't need to lure in baddies like an all-you-can-eat human buffet. But just cause he looked different on the outside didn't mean he'd lost his fighting spirit. Raring to rumble, he declared that this here land was his turf now. You mess with the bull, you get the horns. Or in this case, a metric ton of earth upside the head. It was like the terrible twosome finally registered that this particular patch of real estate could and would bludgeon them black and blue. Not the sharpest tools in the shed, Metalhead and the barking birch tried to throw hands again, pounding away at our hero's chiseled features with all the finesse of a toddler having a tantrum. Too bad their puny punches barely made a dent, the land was just too dummy thick to feel a thing. These bozos may have lost a few brain cells during their Darksider makeover, but that was no excuse for underestimating the turf beneath their toes. They'd barely scratched the surface literally before their weapons got hopelessly stuck, like King Arthur's sword in really ticked-off stone. Rolling his metaphorical eyes, the grumpy golem decided it was high time to take out the trash. Focusing his power, he shifted the earth's density right under the gruesome twosome's feet, shattering their trapped weapons like a couple of toothpicks. The extra oomph from his attack sent M flying sky high, screaming like a pair of rabid banshees. But if they thought they were getting off easy, they had another thing coming. You know what they say, what goes up must come down, right into the same pit they'd clawed their way out of mere moments ago. Don't you just love a twist ending? Not about to make the same mistake twice, our hero slammed the ground shut over their ugly mugs before they could even blink. And just like that, poof, no more Darksiders, no more drama. Just another day in the life of a land-bound defender of justice. With the threat neutralized and fertilized, Sir Soilsalot took a moment to pat himself on the back. He'd done a real solid for that poor girl today. She was welcome. By the way, too bad she couldn't exactly stick around to bask in his earthy excellence. See, the thing about being a sentient slab of forest floor is that it's kind of a lonely gig. No matter how many baddies you bury, at the end of the day, you're still just talking to yourself. The girl would be way better off making tracks and finding some other non-dirt humans to hang with. But dang it all, was it too much to ask for a little company? Just a few more minutes of feeling like a regular Joe again, shooting the breeze with a cute co-ed. As these moody thoughts rattled around his brain box, the sound of cautious footsteps broke through his pity party soundtrack. Lo and behold, the green-haired gal was making her way over to him, a look of pure wonder on her face. Once she got nice and close, she dropped the million-dollar question, "Are you the one who saved me?" Our guy was gobsmacked. Hold the phone, could this chick actually see him? Like, really see him? The mushy feelings in his chest cavity sure hoped so. He had to know for sure, so he asked if she could make out his devilishly handsome features. Hey, a heap can dream. But as it turns out, seeing wasn't quite the right word. The girl admitted that while she couldn't exactly peep his pretty mug, she could definitely feel him. Something in her gut told her that this particular patch of terra firma was something special, like it was radiating major protective vibes. Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. Hearing those words made our boy feel 10 feet tall, not literally, though that would be kind of awesome. For the first time since this whole Darksider mess started, somebody actually acknowledged his existence. He was so dang happy, he grabbed her hand and held on tight, like she might just float away if he loosened his grip. Never one to beat around the bush, Mr. Forthright flat out asked the cutie to move in with him, right then and there. Just think she could set up shop on his spacious torso and live the high life, rent-free? What red-blooded gal could say no to an offer like that? Shockingly, Green Hair wasn't immediately on board with shacking up with a sentient slab of sod. It's almost like the idea of living on some rando's body was a touch outside her comfort zone. Go figure. But our guy was nothing if not persistent. He hit her with a hard sell, laying out all the reasons why she'd be a fool to pass up such a sweet deal. For starters, the name's Lai Chengyan, and he used to be a regular flesh and blood dude, just like her. He was moseying through this very forest, minding his own beeswax, when the Freaky Friday eclipse decided to turn him into a human throw rug. Talk about a major vibe killer. As far as he could tell, the world was basically one big monster mosh pit these days. Nowhere was safe, and those Darksider dinguses were always on the prowl for their next squishy snack. But not to toot his own horn much, Lai Chengyan was pretty dang sure he could keep her out of harm's way. Sure, his earning potential as a plot of petunias was kind of in the toilet, but he could definitely provide a roof of sorts over her head. And let's be real, a cute little thing like her wouldn't last 10 seconds out there on her own. She needed a big, strong landmass to watch her back. Okay, so maybe his pitch was a little heavy on the doom and gloom. But could you blame the guy? This was his shot at having an actual conversation partner again, and he was pulling out all the stops. He just needed her to understand what was at stake here. Because the truth was, Lai Chengyan didn't give a flying fungus about all that safety stuff. Not really. The real reason he wanted this chick to stick around. She made him feel alive again. Like he had a reason to keep on trucking, even in this messed up apocalypse world. Was that so wrong? Lost in his own head as usual, it took Lai Chengyan a hot minute to realize he was basically word vomiting all over the poor girl. In fact, he was yapping so dang fast, he'd be shocked if she caught even half of his desperate plea. He tried to sum it up in a snazzy slogan, "Stay with me, and I'll keep you safe and sound." There, nice and simple. Even a dame could understand an offer like that, right? Right? Fortunately for our anxious Adonis of the undergrowth, the green gal, who he soon learned was named Luluo, couldn't help but be moved by his earnest appeal. She felt the full weight of his sincerity in her bones. This wasn't just some lines from a love-struck lump. Plus, let's be real here. Her odds of surviving this freak show on her own were slimmer than a sheet of parchment paper. If this Lai Chengyan character was on the level, shacking up with him was a no-brainer. So after a long, dramatic pause during which Lai Chengyan was definitely not holding his breath, no sir, Luluo finally dropped the R-bomb he'd been dying to hear. Yes. Yes, she said yes. Our guy was over the moon. He was doing cartwheels in his cranium. He had a roomie. But before they could start painting the town red, or, brown, there was the teeny tiny matter of finding Luluo a Darksider-proof pad to crash in. No problem, Lai Chengyan was all over it like a mudslide on a mountain. As they set off on their thrilling house hunting adventure, Luluo suddenly froze in her tracks. Looks like she just noticed the funky fungal stuff going down with her new boo's right hand. The dang thing was shrinking faster than wool socks in a dryer. Lai Chengyan took a gander at his own extremity, and sure enough, that sucker was withering away like an old banana peel. It was almost like something was sucking the very life force out of him, one finger at a time. Talk about a raw deal. Determined to get to the bottom of this wacky wasting disease, our hero did a little internal recon. He spread his awareness through every last granule of his gravelly bod, searching for anything out of place. It didn't take long for him to hit pay dirt. Turns out, there was this gnarly purple plant with delusions of grandeur, sending its greedy little roots all through his precious soil. A subterranean menace, if you will, and judging by the way it was growing like a weed on steroids, Lai Chengyan was willing to bet his last dirt clod that this was no ordinary shrub. Odds were high they were dealing with a brand spankin' new type of Darksider, here one with a real green thumb for trouble. Well, that settled it. There was no way around it. They'd have to take a little detour and nip this botanical bad boy in the bud before it could cause any more mischief. No way was Lai Chengjin about to let some overgrown asparagus sap him dry. So off they went, two crazy kids against the world of bloodthirsty plant monsters. But dang, was that purple people eater one mean mama jamma. By the time they finally got within spitting distance of the thing, Lai Chengjin was running on fumes. It felt like that freak of nature had drained every last drop of juice from his poor, abused land bod. Luluo was beside herself with worry. I mean, it was one thing for her new crush to be a little rough around the edges, but this was straight up cratering before her eyes. Still, Lai Chengjin wasn't about to let a little thing like total energy depletion get him down. No way. Jose, he puffed out his mighty chest, or what was left of it, and tried to play it off like it was no biggie. But even he had to admit, they were in a real pickle this time. If they didn't find that botanic bloodsucker and take it out of commission ASAP, he'd be lucky if he had enough nutrients left to. The evil plant monster's sharp root was even stronger than the two human Darksiders that Lai Chengjin had buried before. Luluo watched in horror as the deadly weapon punched a huge hole right through his body. She felt so helpless seeing him get hurt like that. The plant wasn't done yet, though. It was about to use its big, heavy lumps to smash Lai Chengjin into pieces. He yelled at Luluo to run away while she still could. When the lumpy roots came crashing down from the sky, Lai Chengjin's body crumbled and broke apart. It looked really bad, but Lai Chengjin knew he wouldn't die from injuries like that. The problem was, the plant monster was way too strong for him to fight for very long. The best he could do was buy Luluo some time to escape. He shouted at her again, telling her to save herself. This was his battle, not hers. If she got tangled up in this craziness, how could he call himself her protector? How could they build a life together? Luluo could feel how much he cared, but she still wouldn't budge. Lai Chengjin warned her one last time not to underestimate a Darksider's power, but it was like she couldn't even hear him. 4 more root attacks were zooming straight at Luluo. Quick as a flash, she grabbed some bottles of green liquid from her farming bag and splashed them all over the roots. The plant monster screeched in pain and surprise. It could feel the burning sensation spreading from the drenched roots. In seconds, they withered and crumbled into dust. Luluo might not know much about Darksiders, but she sure knows her plants. She figured this monster had to be super good at sucking up liquids, so she gave it a big gulp of extra-strength weed killer, the really nasty stuff that farmers use. As the sun-blocking eclipse loomed overhead, every single one of the plant's roots shriveled up and blew away. The weed killer it had absorbed raced through its whole body, making all its weapons fall apart. In the end, all that was left was a puny little flower, hunched over on the ground. Just moments ago, it had been making scary hooting sounds and acting all tough. Now it was shaking like a leaf. Luluo decided to call it Toot Toot. Toot Toot looked really sorry for what it had done. It even held up some of its own fruits and offered them to Luluo and Lai Chengjin like a peace present. Lai Chengjin still didn't trust it, though. This thing was a Darksider, after all. Who knew what sort of evil thoughts it might be hiding? Luluo took a closer peek at Toot Toot's gift. Turns out, they weren't fruits at all, they were lumpy stem tubers, like potatoes. Maybe that's what Toot Toot was before it turned into a monster. While Lai Chengjin focused on healing his wounds, Luluo started peeling the weird potato fruits. She wanted to find some that hadn't been poisoned by the weed killer. When she found a good one, she cut off a tiny piece and popped it in her mouth to taste it. Lai Chengjin freaked out. What if it was dangerous? He ran over to make sure she was okay. Luluo said the potato thing had a normal flavor and seemed safe to eat. It would be better cooked, but she gave it a thumbs up. Lai Chengjin was still worried, though. If Luluo showed any sign of getting sick, he was ready to make her swallow a bunch of dirt to soak up the poison. He was really stressed, even though she didn't actually swallow the potato bit. Next, Luluo gave Toot Toot a stern warning. From now on, it was only allowed to suck up nutrients from the ground if Lai Chengjin said it was okay. No more gobbling everything in sight. Toot Toot seemed happy to agree to those rules. Lai Chengjin had a question for the greedy little plant. What was that weird black stuff it had been drinking from the dead Darksiders earlier? Toot Toot called it dark element. The flower monster reached out with a leafy arm and plucked a little ball of dark element right out of the air to show them. Lai Chengyan leaned in close to get a better look. As soon as he did, the dark blob dissolved and zapped into his skin like a lightning bolt. All of a sudden, Lai Chengyan could hear strange voices chattering all around him. The plants growing on his land body were talking about the weird new sunlight and warning him about intruders. Toot Toot kept making its funny hooting noises, but now Lai Chengyan could understand what it was saying. The flower was asking him if the dark element tasted yummy. Was this dark gunk giving him the power to talk to plants? Toot Toot explained that dark element makes Darksiders change and get stronger. Lai Chengyan would have to test out his new skills soon, because another monster was heading their way. A few moments later, a Darksider with a body that looked like it was made from solid wood burst into view. Lai Chengyan wasn't worried, though. His plant pals had sensed it coming from a mile away. Without even turning around, Lai Chengyan made a bunch of sharp stone spears shoot out of the ground and stab the wood monster to bits. Luluo was so shocked, she didn't even see their attackers coming. Lai Chengyan told her not to worry. Now that he had eaten some dark element, he could control the land way better than before. He had eyes and ears everywhere. As bits of the wood monster's body started dissolving into smoke, Lai Chengyan focused his power and sucked all the dark energy out of it. He was getting the hang of this. From now on, any Darksider that messed with them would end up as plant food. The more he absorbed their evil power, the stronger he would get. It was a win-win, for him and Luluo. Anyway, the monsters might not like it so much. Luluo was relieved that Lai Chengyan was okay. For a minute there, she had been really scared that Toot Toot did something bad to him when he zoned out. Speaking of their new flower friend, it sure was interested in Luluo. Most regular folks were terrified of Darksiders, but not her. The curious plant wondered how she could be so chill about everything that was happening. Luluo said it was because she grew up playing in the dirt and hanging out with plants all the time. For a farm girl like her, Toot Toot was no big deal. Next, Toot Toot had an idea. What if it shared some of its dark element with Lai Chengyan? That way, they could all exist together. For a little flower, Toot Toot was pretty darn smart. Luluo figured it must have gotten a big brain boost from slurping up so much monster juice. Toot Toot was cool with a teamwork plan, as long as nobody tried to get too touchy-feely. No petting allowed. Lai Chengyan agreed to the scheme, since it meant he would get even more control over the land. Knowledge is power. But first, he had an extra question for the flower fiend. Where did that little ball of dark element from earlier come from? Toot Toot said it was obvious the power came from the light. Duh. With the big crazy eclipse always hanging in the sky, there was plenty of evil sunshine to go around. Lai Chengyan and Luluo realized that the eclipse and the dark element were connected. He told her to hide in the shade of a tree, far away from the corrupting rays. They had figured out that the sun was still transforming people into monsters, even now. The eternal eclipse was the key to this whole apocalypse mess. After that, life started to feel almost normal for Luluo. Well, as normal as it could feel when your best friend was a giant talking field that ate monsters for breakfast. She explored every inch of Lai Chengyan's new land body, scouting for good spots to make camp. One day, Luluo found traces of an old farm, from before the world went crazy. She was super excited to show Lai Chengyan. The only problem was, he was really struggling to adjust to his new life as a bunch of dirt. It didn't help that Toot Toot was always following them around, hitching a ride on Lai Chengyan's back. He was starting to get annoyed at being the flower's personal taxi service. Even though Lai Chengyan was way bigger now, he could still only move around in a small area. If he tried to go further, he'd get stopped by an invisible wall. The only way to expand his territory was to slowly push his dirt self out, bit by bit. Whenever he rolled over new ground like that, it would get absorbed and become part of him. He was like a superhero that could grow and grow, as long as he put in the work. While Lai Chengyan focused on getting swole, Luluo studied the land around them. The spot they had picked today had all the things they needed: good soil, a water source nearby, and no monsters in sight. She was sure it would make the perfect forever home for them. Lai Chengyan trusted Luluo's judgment. There was no doubt about it that girl sure knew her stuff when it came to the great outdoors. But just as he was getting ready to dig in and expand, he felt something weird nearby. Luluo had a teeny tiny glowing speck stuck to her shirt. It was a mini piece of dark element. Lai Chengyan carefully pulled it off her and reminded Luluo that she had to stay close. It was too dangerous for her out in the sun-blasted wilds. That was the whole reason they had their deal, so he could keep her safe, no matter what. Lai Chengyan never wanted Luluo to end up a monster like him. His heart would break if that happened. Luluo got all red in the face and flustered when he called himself a monster. She told him to stop saying stuff like that. To her, he was 100% human, no matter what he looked like on the outside. Toot Toot watched them argue, totally confused. The flower had no clue why they were getting so worked up. How was a little dandelion supposed to understand the super complicated feelings between two people? Not gonna happen. Trying to change the subject, Luluo showed Lai Chengyan the seeds she wanted to plant first. They were all fast-growing fruits and veggies, the kind that could keep them fed in a crisis. Everybody knows that food is the most important survival tool. She handed the seeds over to Lai Chengyan. He was in charge of testing out his new farming powers. The first thing he did was sprinkle the tiny kernels with a little bit of dark element. Even though they had just started, Lai Chengyan could already feel the baby plants inside the seeds, eager to burst out and grow. It was so weird. As soon as he gobbled up some dark element, it's like he could read the minds of every green thing around him. He wasn't sure how it worked, but he seemed to be able to talk to plants with his brain now, too. Freaky stuff. The dark element was turning out to be super useful, as long as you overlooked the whole came from evil monsters thing. Sure enough, as soon as Lai Chengyan coated the seeds in glowy black powder, they started sprouting like crazy, right in his hand. Luluo couldn't believe how fast it was happening. The little guys had barely touched the dirt before they were already popping out leaves and shoots. Lai Chengyan didn't feel sick or anything, so he figured this new planting method was a win. His guess was that eating all that dark element had changed him inside, giving him the power to make stuff grow like magic. In fact, he was so excited about his new tricks, he decided to use up all his stored evil energy and put it into making the plants get even bigger. Green Thumb unlocked. Just then, Toot Toot started bouncing around, trying to get Lai Chengyan's attention. He had no idea what the flower's problem was. Turns out, Toot Toot wanted some of that sweet growing energy too. What a needy little sprout. Lai Chengyan might have shared his plant food, if Toot Toot hadn't been such a bossy brat. He told the flower that it had better shape up and do what he said, or it could forget about any more power-ups. No more freeloading. Toot Toot got the message loud and clear. It bobbed its head up and down like a dashboard flower, promising to be good from now on. You had to give the plant some credit, it sure knew how to adapt to survive. From that moment on, Lai Chengyan put all his energy into spreading out and building up his territory. He was a field on a mission. Every day, he pushed his boundaries a little further and gulped down any dark element he could find. It was like taking his vitamins, but for a dirt man. The bigger he got, the more gunk he could absorb, and the more gunk he ate, the more he could expand. It was a never-ending cycle of growth and power. With Luluo's help, they turned the land into a super productive farm, full of yummy mutant food. Sure, living life as a bunch of magic soil wasn't exactly a fairy tale ending. But whenever Lai Chengyan started getting bummed out, Luluo was always there to cheer him up. She never let him forget that deep down, he was still a person, no matter what. And hey, maybe one day they'd figure out a way to change him back to normal. A guy could dream, right? For now, all they could do was keep surviving and look for other humans to save. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than being Monster Chow. Then one day, Toot Toot told them something that changed everything. The trusty flower had spotted a group of actual, real-life people wandering around nearby. And not only that, but a big mob of Darksiders was coming after them. Up ahead, a girl with pink hair was running for her life through the trees. Her name was Liu Fengyuan, and she was one of Luluo's best friends. They had gotten separated when the world went nuts. Now Liu Fengyuan was back, and she had brought two others with her, a tough-looking dude who seemed like he knew how to handle himself in a fight, and another girl who was slowing them down big time. The guy was yelling at Liu Fengyuan, blaming her for leading them into danger. He said it was all her fault for wanting to come looking for Lu Luo. Talk about rude, but he did kind of have a point. Screaming while you run from monsters is never a good idea. Lai Chengyan could tell this was going to be a tough battle. The Darksiders chasing them had bodies covered in really sharp spikes and blades. Those things looked like they could cut through rock. As the humans started getting tired from running, Lai Chengyan got ready for war. No spiky monster was going to hurt Lu Luo's friends on his watch. It was time to see what a man-shaped field could really do when the chips were down. Lai Chengyan grabbed the blade Darksider tightly by the feet. He gave the nerdy-looking boy a glance. He was really curious about something. If plants could control Darksiders, what other crazy surprises might be waiting in this world after the apocalypse? Lai Chengyan let the nerdy boy have a chance to get away from the super dangerous cliff edge. That kid's friends were completely useless. The blade Darksider tried to turn its ugly spider face around to see who was holding onto its feet. It made some weird nonsense noises. When the Darksider couldn't see who had it trapped, it twisted its neck all the way around in a full 180-degree circle like an owl. Now it could see it was Lai Chengyan, the guy who basically was the land they were standing on. The blade Darksider forgot all about the nerdy boy and attacked Lai Chengyan like crazy instead, swinging its blades every which way. Lai Chengyan saw that attack coming from a mile away, but he didn't bother dodging or doing anything fancy to block the blades. Instead, Lai Chengyan decided to watch how the Darksider acted so he could learn some new info. Based on his smarty-pants guess, this monster thing shouldn't be able to talk. Lai Chengyan was the one standing on top of the Darksider, but it didn't say sorry or anything. It even attacked him with a big smile on its face. Lai Chengyan figured he better teach this rude monster a lesson. After all, this was basically his house. All Lai Chengyan had to do was think about it, and the ground under the Darksider's feet caved in. It made a deep sinkhole that looked like a tornado had hit it. Having the land collapse was just one way Lai Chengyan could control his body. To the regular humans watching, it looked like the Darksider ran the wrong way and attacked the air for no reason. Then a freak accident made it fall in a hole. At least the kids were safe though. Just a second ago, the nerdy boy thought the Darksider was going to chop him into little pieces. But a landslide showed up out of nowhere and saved him. Lu Fengyuan looked really excited and happy about something. She pointed to smoke coming from the other side of a cliff. The smoke was going way up high into the sky. If they could see smoke signals from where they were standing, it must be from other kids who survived from their school. Maybe it was even Lulu. So the three friends knew where they had to go next. They calmed down, fixed their clothes, and started walking towards the smoke. Toot the flower was watching them really carefully as they left. He looked over and saw Lai Chengyan was back from fighting the monster that almost hurt those kids. Lai Chengyan pretended to yawn and buried the Darksider so deep in the ground that nobody would ever see it again. Toot wondered why Mr. Landlord was letting Lulu talk to her human friends. Right now, deciding to share food and supplies with a bunch of other people didn't seem very smart. But Lai Chengyan knew humans need to be around other humans. He would know since he used to be one not that long ago. If humans have a choice, they like to make groups and live together. Plus, it had already been a pretty long time since that eclipse happened and messed everything up. Lulu and the others were hiding deep in the forest. They had no clue what was happening in the rest of the world. Lai Chengyan wanted to know that information too, since it was important for his group to find out. Speaking of groups, Lulu finally found her buddies again. Toot was just scared these new humans might try to steal their food. If that happened, what were they supposed to do? Not everyone could get along and be besties like Toot and his tumors, Akaloi. Lai Chengyan told the weird flower not to worry. If any of these humans caused trouble, he would deal with them ASAP, no matter who they were. After that, the e-girl Lu Fengyuan wouldn't stop hugging Lulu. She was so happy her BFF was okay. Lu Fengyuan had been super duper scared when they lost track of Lulu all of a sudden. Lulu had to make the e-girl calm down since that hug was lasting forever. Lu Fengyuan felt really grateful Qin Wen and Cheng Jun came with her to look on this side of the mountains. She never would have found Lulu with the green hair if she came by herself. Kin said something snarky about how it must be a miracle that Lulu stayed alive on her own. Fang Yuan couldn't believe Lulu managed to make a pretty good shelter. It seemed like she planned on hiding in these woods for a long time. Party Pooper Kin said that was a bad idea. He told Lulu hiding here forever definitely wouldn't work. Kin reminded them that just a few minutes ago, they almost got killed by a Darksider. He was 100% sure this forest was totally dangerous and not safe at all. He wanted Lulu to come with them to the civil defense military fortification in the city. There would be lots of food and supplies for every single survivor there. Kin said if the army base didn't protect the humans who were left, they would just be walking happy meals for the Darksiders to hunt down and eat. Since they were already talking about it, Lulu asked what exactly was going on in the rest of the world these days. That question almost gave Kin a panic attack because everything was so scary. There were monsters everywhere. The Darksiders took over and more than 50% of humans suddenly changed into different kinds of monsters. They went nuts and started attacking regular people. Everything turned to chaos and nothing made sense anymore. Most of the humans left were too scared to even go outside. After seeing how bad it was, they just hid inside the army base and prayed the military would come save them soon, even though nobody knew if they would actually come or not. Kin was trying really hard to make Lulu go to that depressing place with him. He even grabbed her arm and started pulling. Kin said the only reason they didn't die on the way here was because Lu Fangyuan's drone showed them paths where there weren't any Darksiders. He told Lulu that nobody smart would risk their life on such a dangerous rescue mission. So now Kin wanted to be the big hero and get Lulu to what he said was a safe place. Kin was squeezing Lulu's arm so hard that it hurt. She could tell he was getting impatient. Overall, this Kin guy just made Lulu feel weird and gross. So Lai Chengyan decided to step in. He used the walls to push a bowl off the shelf. The bowl was made of clay and it smashed into a bunch of pieces when it hit Kin Wen on the shoulder. Being shocked by the bowl and feeling the pain made Kin let go of Lulu's arm. Lu Fangyuan, being the nice friend she is, stepped up to protect Lulu. As far as Lu Fangyuan knew, Kin Wan didn't used to be a violent person before all this happened. He wasn't the type to hurt people just because he was grumpy or in a hurry. That made Grumpy Pants Kin even more upset though. He said he was risking his own life to come find Lulu. And now this e-girl had the nerve to talk to him like he was a bratty little kid. Kin told Lu Fangyuan that if she kept arguing and waiting around, she was going to end up as Darksider food. The nerdy boy Changjun tried to get in the middle and calm everyone down. He joked around and asked his buddy Kin if maybe running into that Darksider a minute ago was making him extra cranky. Changjun suggested the boys should go outside and relax for a bit. Meanwhile, the girls could pack up and get ready to go. Their friend Lulu was being super sweet. She started blaming herself and thinking it was all her fault. Kin acted like a huge jerk. Lu Fangyuan looked at the boys outside and shot them a dirty look that could kill. Kin was still really mad about something. He thought the girls just didn't understand how dangerous it was to stay out here. He said he was sorry he made the dumb choice to come on this crazy mission. He thought they were all gonna die. Changjun tried to stay calm and logical about everything. He told Kin to stop rushing Lulu. She did survive here by herself for a while, so maybe she needed a minute to deal with how things were now. Changjun figured the big guy was just hangry, so he gave Kin some roasted potatoes that Lulu made. Changjun said the trip back home would be even harder than coming here, so they should at least eat some food and get their strength up first. Kin snatched the potato like it belonged to him. He said that's how it should have been from the start. He should be the one to get the food and supplies before anyone else. Lai Chenjin and Toot were quietly watching this fight from far away. They wanted to see what would happen next. Toot was super confused. He asked if this was how humans always acted with each other. Lai Chenjin said no, not all humans are the same. You can't say they're all good or all bad. The only thing Toot knew was that he saw someone being really mean and ungrateful. That made them the perfect person to steal food from, and not feel bad about it later. Those guys were eating the potato stems that he worked so hard to grow. From what the landlord could tell, these humans weren't people who could stay here and work together. They were Lulu's friends, sure, but they came here specifically to take her away and make her go with them no matter what. Now Mr. Landlord had a lot to think about. If those guys wanted to take Lulu and she wanted to go with them, should Lai Chenjin show up and stop them? Did he even have the right to mess with Lulu's choice? Toot was used to doing whatever he felt like, so he asked Lai Chenjin if those questions even mattered. Since Mr. Landlord used to be human, this stuff was really important to him, way more important than Toot's potato stems. Besides the potatoes, that sassy little flower noticed something else that was a big deal. Lulu's 3 friends came from super far away, but they didn't have any dark stuff on them at all. If they were outside for a long time, where the heck did the dark stuff go? When Lai Chenjin figured out what that meant, it scared him a lot. After the boys ate the potatoes outside, Chengjun asked Grumpy Pants Chin if he was in a better mood now that his belly was full. In the meantime, the nerdy boy would go check on the girls. Maybe they already packed everything up and were ready to go. But Chin was a big old jerk about it. Instead of saying thank you to Lulu for the potatoes, he spit them out like food wasn't super hard to find these days. Chin said that was the grossest, most disgusting potato he ever ate. Lai Chenjin thought that was rude. There was nothing wrong with his potatoes. Maybe the big guy was just feeling anxious and taking it out on everyone else. When Chin heard the word anxious, he got even madder. He said, "Duh, of course I'm worried about keeping everyone safe. If I wasn't, then why would I be freaking out?" Chin made a fist so tight that the veins on his hand popped out. He yelled that they were stuck in a real-life horror movie with monsters around every corner. All he wanted to do was save everybody. As Chin's face started changing to look like an ugly Darksider, he screamed at his friends. He asked them why they kept making him do such tough stuff. Lu Fangyuan brought out the flying robot she took from the school's animal science place when they left. She told everyone, "Hey, don't forget, stealing is okay in the apocalypse." The drone could see heat and infrared. Lu Fangyuan figured she could use it to help them get back to the army base without any problems. They would just go on paths where the drone didn't spot any Darksiders. She had been yapping for a while when she noticed Lulu looked really sad about leaving the forest. So, Lu Fangyuan decided to straight up ask her bestie what was wrong. What could possibly make Lulu want to stay out here instead of going back where it was safe? Lulu gave her an awkward little smile. She didn't know what to say. Before, Lai Chengyi only told Lulu he wanted to know what was happening in the outside world. But what was Lulu supposed to do now that her buddies wanted her to go back to the city with them? Lulu was afraid that if she left without saying bye, Lai Chengyuan would hate her guts for being so rude. Cheng Jun and Grumpy Kin came back inside the dirt house. The nerdy boy asked Lulu if she was ready in her brain to go now. He thought maybe she was scared of seeing more Darksiders out there. Lulu said that definitely wasn't it. She thought about telling them the truth, but Lulu was scared Lu Fangyuan and the others would think she was a total wacko. Inside her head, Lulu was freaking out and going crazy. It would be so much easier if Lai Chendi would come out and do something to fix this whole mess. Lulu just wanted Mr. Landlord to tell her what the heck she should do. But Cranky Kin finally ran out of patience. He said that was it. They already wasted way too much time. If Lulu refused to go, then he would be happy to tie her up like a prisoner and drag her with them. Kin said if they spent any more time here, they would be putting everyone's lives in danger. The way he saw it, Lulu not making up her mind was the same as her saying she didn't care if Kin and his friends lived or died. Lu Fangyuan stood up for Lulu again. The e-girl asked Kin if his pea-sized monkey brain finally snapped and made him go crazy. She said Kin wasn't even trying to talk to Lulu nicely and get her to come with them. Lu Fangyuan told him it was like he wasn't even the same Kin one she used to know. She said he wasn't making any sense. He just kept pulling wild ideas out of thin air. And every time he opened his big mouth, all he talked about was dying. Lu Fangyuan told Kin that if he was so scared of death, then he shouldn't have come on the rescue mission in the first place. The e-girl was on a roll now. She asked Grumpy Pants if he thought he was some kind of big shot hero. Did he think that without his amazing skills, every single one of them would die? Based on the look on Kin's face, it seemed like Lu Fangyuan hit the nail on the head. She took charge and started making decisions for everyone. The e-girl told Cheng Jun to stick to the plan they already had. She would go outside and let the drone loose. Meanwhile, the nerdy boy should make sure there weren't any Darksiders around. Lu Fangyuan was so bossy that Glasses had to agree with her. The e-girl turned back to Kin one more time. She told him to wake up and smell the coffee. If he didn't stop acting like this, he would be the big problem that got everyone else killed in the end. What they didn't know was that the dark stuff inside Grumpy Kin was just itching to come out and play. When Lu Fangyuan forced him to face his worst fears head-on like that, it only made the darkness worse. Even stronger. Everything was going exactly how they planned. Lu Fangyuan got her drone ready to fly around and check out the areas close by. She would control it from far away so she stayed safe. They picked a nice clear spot to send the drone up. The wind was just right so they could take off any second. Lu Fangyuan held the controller and got ready to put on her special mask so she could see what the drone saw. It seemed like going back home to their town would be super easy. The E-girl really hoped there wouldn't be any Darksiders in the way. Finally, they let the drone go and it zoomed way up high. It was supposed to film the safest path for the group to walk. Things were going great, until they totally weren't. Out of nowhere, a weird hook shot into the air and smashed the drone into a bazillion pieces. Little bits of broken drone rained down on everyone's heads. Lu Fangyuan took off the mask since the screen turned off. Nobody saw that coming. So the nerdy boy and girl were completely shocked. They looked over to where the hook thingy flew from. A big muscly guy walked out of the dirt house. It was Kin Wan. One of Kin's arms was super long like a rope. His hand looked just like the hook that killed the drone. Kin kept saying over and over that this was all because of the Darksiders. His hook hand and the long rope arm shrank back down to normal size. He said he was the only one who could protect them from the Darksiders. Kin told them if they wanted to live, they better listen to him and do whatever he says. Lulu was still inside the house. She was closest to Crazy Kin. Lulu couldn't see Kin's face that well. She didn't know for sure if he turned into a full Darksider yet. His face was covered in weird shadows, but his eyes were glowing bright. That pretty much proved he did change. The strange part was, Kin wouldn't stop saying he was trying to protect the group. He honestly believed he was saving them, and they just didn't get it. Lulu realized Kin was too far gone to help. She tried to run past him and out the door as fast as her legs could go. Lulu was really scared, but she had to warn the others that Kin went bad. She actually made it pretty far away from the kinda sorta Darksider Kin. Hookshit Boy's brain still worked enough to feel sad his so-called friends weren't listening to him. But Lulu was running away like Kin was a monster. So like any normal, sane person, he screamed at them that he was going to kill every single one of them. Then, he got his hook hand ready to shoot again. Right before Kin could shoot his arm rope thingy, the dirt house behind him started cracking all on its own. It fell apart for no reason. When the house finally crumbled into a huge pile of rocks and dust, all the heavy chunks buried the hookshot Darksider. Lulu kept running, but she turned around and saw all the destruction. Like always, as soon as something bad happened, the first thing Lulu did was blame herself for everything. Qingjun and Lu Fangyuan were okay too since they were standing far away from the house when it fell down. They were both really confused. Kin Wan never even touched a Darksider directly before. It never even crossed their minds that he might change while they were trying to escape. The E-girl snapped out of it and grabbed Lulu. The poor girl looked super scared and shocked. Lu Fangyuan was the only one who could still think straight. She knew Darksiders weren't like zombies in the movies. Plus, they had no clue how people turned into the monsters. She told the nerdy boy he'd better start running too, unless he actually thought he could fight a Darksider. Then the evil hook burst out of the giant pile of broken house. It headed right for the group as they ran away. Thank goodness Lulu looked back to check. She saw the shiny sharp hook about to stab Lu Fangyuan in the back. Lulu screamed at the E-girl to jump out of the way. Lu Fangyuan turned just in time to see the metal hook tip almost hit her body. But before the hook could get anywhere near the E-girl, a huge wall of dirt and rocks shot up out of the ground. It blocked the hook so it couldn't move anymore. Instead of going through Lu Fangyuan's back, the hook got stopped by earthbending powers. The E-girl looked at the shiny hook stuck in the rocks. The sun made it gleam. If the earth didn't magically come to life and help, she would have been a goner for sure. The hook part was really stuck in there good, but something was wiggling around on the other end of the rope, the part near the collapsed house. Using his bendy, stretchy rope arm, Kinwan the Darksider got out from under the broken pieces of house without a single scratch. He was still talking crazy, saying everything was the Darksider's fault. Kin's other hand made a fist and started changing into some weird material. His skin and muscles turned into something different. Kin kept repeating that the group needed him to survive. He said they would all die without his help. An invisible hand grabbed Kin's giant fist before it could punch the other kids. His monster hand was way bigger, but the invisible hand didn't budge an inch. Finally, Lai Cheng'en showed up at exactly the right second. He was the earth wall that stopped the evil hook in the first place. This was the first time Lai Cheng'en ever saw a human turn into an ugly Darksider. He had to admit, this Kinwan guy seemed kinda special. The hookshot Darksider could tell someone was fighting against him, but he couldn't see Mr. Landlord anywhere. As far as Qin knew, even though the mystery person looked like part of the ground, they were definitely thinking and moving on purpose. Qin wondered why someone who wasn't human would try to stop him. In Qin's messed up Darksider brain, he honestly thought he was protecting his friends. So how could he be wrong? Lai Cheng'en asked if that was true. He said if Qin really believed that, maybe they had something in common. Mr. Landlord wanted to know if the guy who used to be Cranky Pants could still stay himself on the inside, even if his body changed on the outside. Qin said he was students and friends with Lulu, Lu Fangyuan, and Cheng Jun. He told Lai Cheng'en that would never change no matter what. Darksider Qin wanted to save his friends so bad, but it was coming out all wrong and dangerous. He 100% believed that he could protect everyone, and this was the only way to do it. Since Lai Cheng'en was a mutated creature too, his instincts told him Qin wasn't lying. Or at least Qin thought what he was saying and doing was absolutely right. If that was the case, Lai Cheng'en didn't get it. He could hang out with Lulu and stay himself. So why couldn't Qin win? Maybe the answer was in the eyes. Lai Cheng'en could see lots of hatred and darkness in Qin's eyes. It was super obvious. Qin's other arm finally finished turning into a Darksider tentacle. Now it was a bunch of strong bendy ropes that could stretch really far. The rope tentacles smashed right through Lai Cheng'en's rock wall like it was made of paper. Then the ropes wrapped around poor Cheng Jun. He didn't run away when he had the chance, and now he was in big trouble. Mr. Landlord turned around and saw what happened. He felt really bad that his earth wall didn't stop Qin's other gross arm. Qin Wen's transformation into a Darksider was almost complete. Every part of him that still looked human was gone. Now he had a scary monster face. Darksider Qin babbled some nonsense about his friends getting infected by dark germs. He said the only way to save them was to kill them. When the Darksider squeezed Cheng Jun in his ropes, the nerdy boy died right away. Lai Cheng'en and saw his new friend's body fall down, and he screamed Cheng Jun's name. But it was too late. The nerdy boy was already dead and couldn't hear anything anymore. Lu Fangyuan felt awful that she made them stop in this horrible forest. She wished she could go back in time and change things. But now all the girls could do was run away and try not to die too. Cheng Jun was gone, but the Darksider that used to be Qin wouldn't stop attacking them. In his crazy mixed-up head, he was the only one who could save them. Darksider Qin thought if they didn't want him to protect them, they shouldn't be alive at all. The girls barely made it to a cliff, but the monster was right behind them. To get away, they jumped off the edge without even thinking. It was a really long way down, like 100 feet. While they were falling, Lu Fangyuan knew this was the end. They were going to go splat and die. The E-girl started blaming herself for everything. After all, she was the one who wanted to find Lulu in the first place. Everyone told Lu Fangyuan it was too dangerous since they didn't know how humans became Darksiders. She felt like it was all her fault that her friends got killed. Lu Fangyuan accepted that she was about to die. She closed her eyes and got ready to hit the ground. But then, she and Lulu didn't feel the hard rocky ground at all. Instead, there was a smooth sloped hill that appeared beneath them. They rolled down it like they were on a kindergarten playground slide. Well, Lu Fangyuan was so shocked that she flipped over on the slide. She started rolling face first, and when she got to the end, she had to spit out all the dirt and sand from her mouth. Now the E-girl's face was covered in scratches and bruises. Still, that was so much better than being dead. Lu Fangyuan couldn't believe how lucky she was. She looked back up at the cliff and wondered how the bumpy slide got there. It was hard for her to understand how they lived through a jump from that high up. Lulu ran over and hugged her bestie really tight. She asked Lu Fangyuan over and over if she was hurt. But the E-girl didn't want to be babied right now. All she cared about was figuring out what the heck just happened. Lulu was just about to explain everything to her friend. She knew it would be really hard for Lu Fangyuan to believe, but Lulu was sure they shouldn't leave. After all, their hero Mr. Landlord was still up there. He would definitely fix this whole mess and keep them safe in this scary monster world. While the girls were talking, Lai Chengyun was fighting Darksider Qin. The monster was super mad that some dumb pile of dirt stopped him from getting to his friends. He made them get away. But Qin couldn't wait to save them some more. The Darksider was going to destroy this new enemy, so he could go protect people again. Lai Chengyun thought that made no sense at all. How could killing your friends be saving them? That's crazy. But Mr. Landlord messed up. He thought he could talk to Qin and make him calm down. Lai Chengyun was wrong, and that's how Chengjun died. The landlord guy wanted to believe Qin 1 could be like him. He hoped Qin could stay a good person on the inside even if his body changed. But in the end, Darksider Qin was just another stupid monster. He couldn't think or talk anymore. He only knew how to kill and repeat the same weird words over and over. There was no part of the real Qin left in there. Lai Chengyun knew a monster this dangerous and crazy had to be destroyed. He didn't feel bad about it at all. Mr. Landlord used his magic nature powers to get ready to fight. The Darksider felt all the energy and got really tense. Darksider Qin rushed at Mr. Landlord and attacked. He still thought he was saving everyone by killing them. What a nut job. Lai Chengyun tried to block the evil hook with his hand, but that was a big mistake. The hook tore his arm clean off and stabbed right through his body. Mr. Landlord was totally shocked the Darksider had that much power. He didn't think Qin would be that strong. Lai Chengyun messed up bad. He really believed he could talk to Qin and make him stop. He wanted to have hope that Qin was still human deep down. That's how Chengjun got killed. Mr. Landlord wanted Qin 1 to come back to his normal self. But once someone turns into a Darksider, they can never fit into human towns again. It's not just because they look different. They're way too angry and crazy. They don't even think like people anymore. The only place for Darksiders to live was with other Darksiders. They had to go be with all the other monsters who got turned. Lai Chengyun told Qin that he had nowhere else to go now. There was no other choice but to leave humans behind forever. Even though Mr. Landlord was a Darksider too, he was special and different from the others. He could still think and remember who he used to be. Lai Chengyun decided to show Qin one last bit of kindness. He would bury Qin 1 and end his suffering for good. The monster made his hook spin like a blender. He wanted to chop Mr. Landlord into tiny pieces. But Lai Chengyun had his own tricks too. He used his plant powers to grow roots really fast. This time, Qin's hook couldn't break the landlord's hands at all. Actually, the hook couldn't even touch him. The roots blocked every attack. Of course, using his magic nature powers came with a price. Lai Chengyun had to use the plants that shared his life force. He felt really bad about hurting them. But the most important thing was killing this Darksider. Then he could reward the roots and give them lots of extra life juice later to make up for it. Mr. Landlord made his ground body even stronger with more roots. Now he could rip Qin's arm off, no problem. The Darksider screamed in pain and got super angry. He stood still and caught his breath for a minute. It seemed like he gave up and was going to run away. But that was just a trick. A second later, all of Qin's rage and hate exploded out of him. He used his other evil arm to attack again. All of a sudden, Lulu's voice came from behind them. She climbed back up the cliff even though it was really scary and dangerous. Lulu had a backpack with her, and inside was something that could help a lot. She quickly threw it to Mr. Landlord and told him to use it fast. Lai Chengyun turned around just in time. He caught the thing and didn't let it hurt him by accident. It was exactly what he needed. A giant, sharp pair of garden scissors. Those giant scissors would have been good enough by themselves. But Mr. Landlord had an even better idea. Lai Chengyun decided to make the garden shears way more powerful. He used his earth magic and bendy plant powers to mix with the sharp metal. Now it was the most ultimate weapon ever. Lai Chengyun knew that no matter how hard the wood Darksider tried, or how much he hated everything, he couldn't beat this new scissor sword. It was time to test it out and see how awesome it was. The Darksider was never going to give up. He attacked Lai Chengyun like a crazy person. But Mr. Landlord just smiled like it was no big deal. This dummy monster didn't even know he already lost the fight before it started. Quick and confident, Lai Chengyun chopped off the Darksider's other arm. Wood chunks flew all over the place. Mr. Landlord wasn't done yet though. He ran at the monster and attacked again. Now that Darksider Qin didn't have any hands, it was super easy for Lai Chengyun to whack him in the head really hard. The monster fell down on the ground. He was totally helpless. His spooky shadow mask cracked into pieces. Without arms, the Darksider couldn't get up. Lai Cheng'en stood over the monster and held the pointy scissors right at his neck. The Darksider was finally beaten. As soon as the coast was clear, Toot the flower popped out of the dirt. He said Mr. Landlord's new weapon wasn't tough enough. It would probably break soon, but at least it was pretty strong. Toot actually had some good advice for once. He told Lai Cheng'en to bury the Darksider in the ground. That way, they could absorb all the nutrients from its body. Toot said, "That's just how nature works." Of course, the Darksider really hated that idea. Right before Mr. Landlord buried him, Chin shouted a bunch more crazy nonsense. Lai Cheng'en still had one more thing to ask. Why did Chin 1 turn into a monster like this? Darksider Chin screamed again about wanting to save people. That made Mr. Landlord think really hard. Maybe Chin didn't just become a Darksider from the Dark Sun's energy. All his paranoid fear probably pulled him to the dark side too. The dirt and roots under Lai Cheng'en started absorbing the Darksider's body. The earth would make sure this guy could never hurt anyone else ever again. It was a safe place now. No more so-called friend protectors could kill people.